everybody, and welcome to Sheer Edge Training. This is one of our live interviews with an industry professional. Today we are speaking to Gary Beckwith, the inventor, creator, designer of the customer engagement program called Gobby. Hi Gary, how are you?
Hi Karen, really well, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
No problem at all. Today we're going to be discussing Gobby, which is, I've just said, Gary's creation. It's a customer engagement tool which Gary has developed from scratch. So Gary, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you find yourself today?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's a really good place to start, I think, as a school leaver. So I left school at the earliest opportunity. I wasn't a big fan, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And my auntie Janet was the counsellor in our world, and she said, she was a district nurse in Northamptonshire area, and she said, Gary, she pinched my cheek and she said, you'd be best off working with people. You'd be really good working with people. I said, all right, Auntie Janet, I'll work with people. So I went to college, and I did a vocational course in social care, and really enjoyed it, and ended up working in the care environment. And I found really quickly that I was a behaviouralist at heart. I really enjoyed working with people with learning disabilities and autism, people with communication difficulties that express themselves in different ways, and how they interacted and behaved based on environmental stimuli. I'm kind of a bit of a worry, really, for people that do communicate differently, in that when I found people were being labelled with challenging behaviour, say, I was quite analytical in a sense, is that if Malcolm was given his 20th cup of tea that day, and I could see that Malcolm was absolutely sick of tea, and he chucked it across the room, and what he really wanted was a beer, that I was able to. I felt a sense of empathy, and I think that was instilled in me really quickly, and I was able to challenge the kind of the labelling of people and understand how people's perceptions formed in different ways. And so, fast forward through a career in adult social care, I ended up doing a diploma in quality assurance and management at Birmingham City University, where I focused primarily on perception data, qualitative data about what people felt and thought, and what people's requirements were for anything, whether you're an employee, whether you're a paying customer, whether you're part of the supply chain. There's a group of, in broader terms, stakeholders attached to any industry, and understanding their thoughts and feelings and how they prefer to communicate has a huge bearing on the success in business and success of services, and the mutual value of experiencing day-to-day life. The whole changes we've been through COVID-19 about use of video chats like this. I wouldn't have dreamt that I'd be doing this a few weeks ago.
I think most of us, this is a completely new way to communicate, isn't it? We've all been thrust into this kind of way of working with each other, so we just kind of got to get on with it, haven't we, and see it as a new challenge every day.
Yeah. So I've changed my slides. So I've got now to the point where, doing my diploma in quality assurance and management, I wanted to use a tool to be able to communicate with people, to be able to say, right, what's most important to you, what matters most to you as an individual, whatever stakeholder type you are, whether you're an employee or whether you're a member of a national charity and you want to have a voice in what direction the charity is going, how they're canvassing opinion and lobbying government or whatever. I wanted to see what tools are out there to be able to gather that sort of information quickly and do something with it. And I found that there was a real gap in the market. So I had a lot of sleepless nights, waking up having brilliant ideas and thinking, how on earth am I going to be able to do this? And it was very much based on this sort of principle, in that this study was done more than 30 years ago, and you might be able to relate to it, in that when you're working for an organisation, you're part of a large organisation, that 4% of the problems are known to top managers, and those people that are standing next to the water cooler in the office tend to know a lot more of the problems because they're just dealing with it day to day. They're the people, the customers, those people at the front line, those people that are closest to that user interface or that key process within the organisation, tend to know what cogs are turning well and which ones are getting stuck for whatever reason. 74% of supervisors understand what those problems are, and 9%. And so you can see here that the percentage gets lower. It depends on how far removed you are from that front line. And I found that there wasn't this interface out there that kind of gathered that sort of that sentiment, that understanding from those frontline workers. So ended up phoning around loads of different developers to be able to say, look, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do. Based on the dissertation I did for my diploma, I wanted to replicate the kind of more Word documents, sending it out, or using online tools that didn't really quite do what I wanted. And I found a developer that would do it, and had some grant funding through Innovate UK, which is government or European funded money, and was able to develop a minimum viable product. And over the past year, I've been developing that further and using it with a customer base to gather those thoughts and opinions, those requirements, and use it for good business intelligence. And that's where I'm at right now.
I think lots of people will be able to relate to what you've said, that if we link it to the event, if you're on an event, you're a delegate, you've had the whole experience of the event from start to finish, and you know what it's like to park, to do the registration process, to find the catering, to find the halls. But actually, do the organisers, do the event owners, do the sponsors all know that information? So that little that information you've just shown can be related back to the event. And again, like we were talking about this earlier, that from my experience, like working for corporates, that exactly like what happens. That you either haven't got enough, I haven't got enough notepads, or I need a new pen, my laptop's dodgy, but actually you just keep using it because you think, is it even going to get resolved? So it's all those little tiny niggly things that are really, really important to people, that actually if you could get all those little things moved up and then come back down as a resolution, or as a different way of working or thinking, people would be so happy. People would come to your events because they know that you listen to them. Your employees would be happy because you've listened to them. So I think that will resonate really strongly with people that are kind of watching this today.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, what really turns me on with stakeholder engagement really is those sort of more not negative but constructive thoughts that happen around, if only the company did this, or if only they would do that, things would be so much easier. They're hemorrhaging money by spending it on this, that and the other, where they could be spending it here and saving themselves and promoting quality. But there's also the really good kind of innovative stuff about those what ifs and if onlys, and if those things were captured by those people that are on the front line, that's amazingly powerful stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that you'll find in social media posts, and the way that I've had Gobby developed is that it really is a lot more social as a quality survey tool, in that other people can see each other's answers, and anonymously, of course, but they're able to say, right, okay, well, here's a little bit of innovation here. This is something that we could be doing, which I think would be really valuable, and getting other people to be able to validate that and say, yeah, that's a bloody good idea. We should, we could do that. And that gets to the top managers, and the top managers go, we're missing a trick here, or that there's a negative feeling and we're losing staff because of X, Y, and Z. that's the sort of stuff that I want to try and get out of using this tool. It's not complicated. It's an internal communications tool. It's an opportunity for a group of stakeholders with a shared experience, knowledge, and understanding to be able to express, to be able to share that qualitative data, and for the company to be able to go, well, why do people think that? There could be that there's a group of people that have got the wrong idea, but that's good to know, isn't it? That's good. That's really good information.
I tell you what, we had a little laugh about this the other day, and it was often when you get surveys or questionnaires, it's like, rate this experience like 1 to 10. Well, what happens if it was all right, but you want to say something like, you know what, I had a really good time at the cinema, but actually your popcorn's too expensive, or I've got to pay for my parking, I've got to pay 15 quid for my ticket and my parking's not included. So you want to give a positive response, but you don't, because you can't leave that constructive comment. Like, you just want to say a little bit, you want to be able to expand on your answer, and I think that's kind of where you're going with it, isn't it? That it's organic in how people can answer the questions, that you can pose a question, but then people can answer it, and then that kind of, you actually get a real feel for what people are thinking. So like, going back to my cinema, actually, if you could say, it was great experience, comfy seats, but your popcorn's too expensive, and if that kind of was able to be commented on by lots of people, something might happen with that, and there might be a change.
Yeah, and that's really the principles behind this, is that Gobby asks open questions rather than closed questions. A lot of traditional online survey tools will say, what are your experiences of, or what did you think the best part of was, out of A, B, C, D, or E? And it's those that you're presetting, you're preforming those domains, if you like, those quality domains for a particular experience, and we're forcing people to go down those routes. And more often than not, you're looking at those and you're thinking, well, okay, I'll put something in the other box. If it doesn't resonate, and then what bugger's going to have to read those and analyse those, and will anyone do anything about it? So I just wanted something where we were able to say, right, what did you like? What did you not like? What did you think? What do you think the future looks like with regards to this sort of event or product or service? So we were able to learn and get those sort of those ideas flowing, but resonating through the group that have got that shared experience. They go, right, okay, well, actually, these are solutions that might actually stick, and they're owned, they're co-created by that stakeholder group, because today there's a real expectation that me as a customer or as an employee, I have got a stake in the organisation. The more that I feel that my opinion is valued, and the more that I'm listened to, and I can see that I'm making a difference, the more motivated I'm going to be to continue to do that. And there's a real PR, public relations interplay between large organisations now and the people that are attached to it, because there's huge attrition rates for us customers and staff, employees moving on and migrating between one place and another.
So can you just
keep people engaged? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Can you just tell us a little bit about kind of how it works as a system? Because I think people will be quite interested to know, like, the product owner, if it's a client from an event, they're going to pose some questions. Then that is sent out to the stakeholders or the delegates or whoever. Then how do people kind of pose their own questions or thoughts, and can other people see those thoughts, comments, and just how does it work, just so we can kind of formulate a little picture in our head?
Great. Okay, so how it works as it stands at the moment, I've developed this product that I'm the sole administrator for. So I work with organisations, and Gobby is essentially my unique selling point, in that there's a human interface with me as a quality professional, and I'm able to work with that organisation and say, right, okay, so where are your business needs right now? What are the things that are most important to you with regards to your key processes? How do you get from point A to point Z in the work that you do? Where do you know where some of the pitfalls and the gaps are, and where are you losing money? Where are you getting negative feedback? So And we're already drawing on some of the things that are known by the organisation. So we can start forming the right questions, if you know what I mean. So we base the questions, the open questions, based on what we already know about the organisation. So that's where the human element is really powerful here, that we're not just throwing out the standard questions day in, day out. So then I feed those questions into the Gobby software. And I work with the organisation's customer relationship management software database for them to either send out the questions via their own system to those stakeholder groups, and then, or I can send it out through the system as a data processor. So I just basically work with the company to say what works best with regards to the resource that you're paying for, and the access to the group of people that you want to connect with. So we set the questions based on business need, we send them out to the right people, and we break those people down by demographic. So I did a piece of work with the post office, and we broke that customer base down into location. So it went to 5,000 drop and go customers for the post office, and it went by location. It went by customer monthly spend average, so small, medium and large sized organisations. And it was by, I think it was company type as well. So what kind of, were they like an online Amazon seller, for example, and that kind of stuff. So we use the information to understand what sort of industry, where are they based, what sort of monthly spend are they, and what do they like about the service at the moment, what did they not like about the service, what would they like out of a loyalty program. So asking those questions that they didn't want to second guess. So we sent that out, and I just got all of those answers back anonymously, based on a unique identifier that the post office gave me. So I was a data processor, but only only the sentiment values that were coming back, or the statements, should I say, from that customer base. And I was able to analyse that based on the demographics, put that into a management report and send that back to them within a couple of weeks. And they were able to make some business decisions really quickly.
Sounds fascinating. It does. And I think being able to be anonymous is a real bonus, because often people maybe don't want to leave comments because they don't want it to get back to them, so like, yes, you've got your unique identifier, so ultimately you will be able to track who they are, but for the purpose of the person responding, they know that it's going to go anonymously and that people aren't going to find out what they're saying. Can you kind of stipulate at the start that this needs to be positive, or you're looking for, can you kind of give them guidance at the start as to kind of how this how
Yes, I can. And I'm making one of the things that's most important to me about this is around the design and the communication side of things. So Gobby is very much an internal communications tool, so it's asking people to generate statements based on a theme in the organisation. But as soon as I write my first comment and I submit that, then Karen Edwards can then see my comment and say, this person's got a point. I'm gonna vote for that, and that validates my statement. Or Karen can say, well, actually, I think there's something else that's more important, and can add that, and that's absolutely fine, because that's how human nature works, and that's how we develop this group thinking that is good for the business and good for ourselves. But no one can see who's making those statements, and that's the beauty of it. It's like a peer-generated polling tool. Yeah.
So, how can potential clients kind of get a little snapshot of this? Can they get a test from you? Can they just get a little, can they see how this works? Do you do demos at all, or
absolutely?
How do you work?
So what I've done is I've developed a questionnaire, a survey that I send out to prospective clients for them to complete themselves, and I go through the whole process with them as well. And I've got some materials that I can send out. But essentially, getting that feel for the interface, and it's a bit like what I've got on screen now. The writing's a bit small, I'm sorry, but you can see here that at the top you can see that there's an open question, and then underneath it you can see that there are a set of answers that have been generated by the group of people that have been involved in the process, and there's a vote count next to it to say, right, this is the most popular statement based on that, and that there's a search facility underneath for those statements that have already been submitted by keyword, a bit like a Google algorithm where you start typing in a statement and you can see which ones are already in existence. So you can search, create your own, or tick the ones that are already there, and then by the end of the survey you've got a really fine list of peer generated content that's really led by the people that are most important to your business.
I think it's really fascinating, which is why we wanted to talk to you, because lots of organisers send out questionnaires, they send out, like Survey Monkeys, Trustpilot, they send out all these different feedback tools that are available, but how many people actually fill them in? So I think if you want feedback from an event and you want to know what was good, bad, what you can do, actually you need to think of how you're sending that out, and look at the open questions and give people a chance to actually give you their real thoughts, and not just give them out of 10 was it good or bad, because that doesn't really tell you anything, and people's opinions are different, aren't they? So actually give people a chance to express their thoughts. I think that's what I like about it, that it's honest, like you said from the start, it's honest.
Yeah. And to go back to the question, I encourage people as part of that internal communications process of part of Gobby is to say, look, this survey is coming up and this is the reason why it's coming up, and make it more of an event, and that it's going to be really led by you. It's not just your average survey tool.
I think as well, it's not just one, it's not an individual, is it? That I haven't set all the questions for you to answer. Actually, I'm giving you a guide, really, and then you as the stakeholder then think, that was a load of rubbish, I'm going to write this answer down, or that's my opinion on it. And it kind of gives people the chance to have their own individual thoughts and not be scared to give their own individual thoughts out as well.
No, that's right. Yeah, and as you can see on the slide here, that all respondents have an equal voice in this one here. And but the beauty of it, the thing that kind of again drives me, going back to the history. I was working with people with autism that would constantly challenge the status quo. People that were being forced to work in a neurotypical environment and work to ways that we felt were best for them. People would rail against it because that's not how they wanted to experience the world necessarily. And and to provide someone that communicates difficulty with a rating scale that's really ambiguous.
Yes.
I've worked with a lot of people on the spectrum that are really articulate and they just want to be able to express in a way that's meaningful to them and get it down, and so that's really where it was driven from in the first place, is being able to say, well, I communicate differently, or I've got my own perspective, my own way of communicating this. Allow me to be able to do that, and if it resonates with the group, then all the better. If it doesn't, I've still got my point of view across.
No, and I'm with you with that. I think you can tell from this discussion that we've had now that you're really passionate about this, and your background in what you've done before with your social work and working with autistic people, that's made you got a really caring person, and you care about getting the right answers from people, or giving them the opportunity to give their own answer, which I think comes across really well in this, which is ultimately, I think, what a lot of people want. Like, organisers want the truth, and they sometimes don't know how to get it. That you send a survey out, or you phone up people, but actually you want people to feel that their thoughts are valid, and each individual person has their own thoughts. So by giving people the chance to actually put their own ideas down, makes people feel valid, which is I think where you've come from, is looking at the individual.
Yeah, and as a quality professional that kind of sits alongside the whole process, I'm able to respond and moderate some of those answers. You are going to get people that are perhaps a little disgruntled and might use language that might otherwise not be used. Personally, I think it's great. I think if someone's able to put something that comes from the heart, then I'm all over it. One of the one of the surveys that I was going to do before COVID-19 was going to start was to a group of heavy metal and rock fan base for an online radio station, and that would have been really colourful with regards to the feedback. Mm-hmm. I know it, and we were having those sort of discussions, and we've got the flexibility to allow that kind of communication to take place and to be really organic and dynamic. But equally, we've got the capacity, like with the post office, it was really positive and really focused on my needs as a customer, and also a recognition post office was trying to genuinely, as a public body, trying to improve what they were doing and make it more engaging. And that was really professional.
So did the post office find using yourself and Gobby really beneficial to them? What was their feedback to you about Gobby?
Okay, so this is I'm not going to read it out. I can allow people to read it out in their own time. But it was what they really wanted was that opportunity. What they liked about Gobby and the concept of Gobby was the opportunity to engage with a large customer base based on their experience. They wanted to understand what they didn't understand and what they didn't know. They wanted to know what they didn't know, and they got that. They were able to understand some of the. I won't go into any of the details of the feedback that was produced, but they were able to understand some of the nuances of the experience that people were facing as a regular user of the service. So, and it could be around the physical activity itself, or how they felt and about competitors and about what they were delivering and what the post office wasn't. So those sort of little bits of sentiment, those little insights, you're not going to get from setting preset questions and answers. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to say, right, tell us what you want out of a loyalty program, pretty much knowing that people would say discounts as the top. But what about responses 2, 3, 4, 5 in that hierarchy? And where are the little things that that post office could provide that doesn't cost them a lot of money, but will certainly add a lot of value to the customers? And that's what they got out of the process, and that's what anyone else would get out of this process.
It does sound really fab, and I'm glad we've been able to have a chat about it. And there's loads more that we can talk about, isn't there? But I think this just gives people an insight into this new way of actually getting feedback from your stakeholders, feedback that is actually valid, and it's hopefully come from the heart. They feel like they're valid, and they're going to open up and just be more responsive, rather than just sending out 10 questions and hoping to get something useful back. Actually, by taking the time to understand what you want to get out of it, you will get out more of it, won't you? So that's the aim for everybody.
Yeah.
Have you got time for a couple of questions? We've got a couple of questions just to fire to you, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Yes,
Nothing
I have.
Too taxing for you. I think we've probably just covered this one, but just briefly, what will the client gain by using Gobby? Just from engaging with yourself.
Yeah, okay. So the way that I've got Gobby structured is having this human attached to the survey design. So but the first thing I think that the organisations will gain from it is having those initial discussion, that initial assessment. It doesn't have to be like a full day workshop. It doesn't have to be really time consuming and costly. But what it does is it allows a level of business analysis to happen first. Who are your stakeholders? Who are the people that are attached to your business that that you interact with on a daily basis? And which stakeholders do you not interact with enough? What are the things, what complaints have you had? Where are people waxing lyrical about how wonderful you are? Let's gather some of that information first in order to set some of those questions. Where is your return on investment? That's the first thing that I focus on. And you don't get that from an off-the-shelf piece of software, should I say. So so that's really where my starting point is. The second part really is about getting the internal communications right, having a process whereby you're interacting with that group of stakeholders on a level and building up to a survey that's saying this is something that's going to make a difference. We really genuinely understand that your opinion matters and it can drive progress forward. You know, we're really focused on innovation, and we believe you're the person that's going to provide the information, Karen Edwards. You're the one who's going to do it, and the pressure. So, but you know, so response rates are really important with surveys, and they've gone down dramatically over the decades because people are sick of surveys. And I want to try and be a bit of an antidote for that with Gobby, to be able to say, look, this is respondent, this is led by you, but you need to turn that into an internal comms focus first. So that added value from having an internal communications resource in me and using the system is powerful. And again, going back to that public relations element as well, about building trust and building that loyalty. So the third thing I would say is about getting better quality data and having that person-centered response back, you know, unadulterated. This is what matters most to me, but it also matters most to Kevin and Sarah and Jemima too. And they're the sort of things that help the decision-making process, in about, you know, feeding resources into the things that matter most to your stakeholder group. And then I guess the last thing really is that it's very much a pulse survey. It's something that you can ask, you know, half a dozen questions, get really rich data back very quickly that's segmented into different stakeholder types and all of the stuff that we need to know, so that we can really be fast to act, and that follow-up communications with that group of people can be speedy as well, and be able to say, right, you said this is what we're doing about it, thank you very much, and let's see an impact over the next few weeks. Let's do a follow-up in a couple of months' time just to see the impacts that you made. So they're the sort of things, and you can do this if we're looking at it with regards to the events industry. The power of gathering that sort of information early on and seeing it play out and seeing it, you know, have the impacts that it makes, and then communicating that back to people is a joyous thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, and I think people in the events industry will get that. And I think what's important today is that the events industry is such a beast, and it changes all the time. It's fast paced, and I think if we can educate people actually the importance of customer stakeholder engagement early on, so look at things like how you're going to engage with people, how you're going to get your feedback, and have it right at the start of your discussions. Because if what you want to do is make your event better year on year, let's think about it right at the start of the process. How will I constantly engage with everybody and just get a snapshot of feedback? So like your pulse survey. There's one little thing I wanted to ask you. Do you think your clients are shocked at the honesty of the answers that they get?
No, not as yet. I think that I guess what people are shocked with, if anything, is that you know, allowing people to have freedom to be able to express themselves isn't a bad thing. And I think that's one of the barriers that I've got as a new service and a new provider in the survey market, is that there's a culture of that if I set the questions and set the answer parameters in there, then there's a level of safety in that. And I think that if I open up people to say whatever they please, then I can expect some answers that I don't really want to hear. But actually, people are grown-ups, and people tend to want to help, and people have got an inherent nature to, you know, particularly if they've been invited to be able to respond as part of a stakeholder group. People want to be able to say, oh, you know, thanks for the opportunity. Here's what's really important to me. And people tend to be really professional and want to be able to add value and not just use it as a way of saying that I don't know, Gary in accounts is a bit of a knobhead. So that's the kind of stuff that people are scared
Great
of.
Example.
Yeah, thanks. So that's probably the most surprising thing from this, is that it actually, we can treat people like adults and it's okay.
Yeah, and I think as well, you wouldn't send a survey out or engage with your stakeholders unless you actually wanted to find out what they wanted.
No.
if for an example, your event doesn't go that well because for whatever reason, if you don't want to know, what people really think, you're not going to send a survey out, are you? Like, you're just not going to do it because you already know, oh God, the weather was awful, or the trains were all cancelled, or the speakers were all ill. Like, you already know that. So, and you're not going to send it out unless you're prepared for it. I've got one final question for you, and that's to do with, when your stakeholders are answering the questions and then posing new questions, is there a facility for the client to actually look at and comment on those questions that are being posed?
No, not so. There were some online forums that your Twitters, your Facebooks, those sort of things that are out there that have got like a wider reach, that can, it's genuinely a social platform. Yeah. What I've done with Gobby is I've made that I've turned that kind of concept of asking open questions, getting people to make those sort of responses based on that theme, but I've professionalized it. I've done it within a cohort of people that are attached to my business that can answer those open questions, and that I can have a really quick turnaround. You've got a week to answer the questions. I'm not asking any more of you than just your opinion. I need you to get that down. But the conversation doesn't stop there. Once I've collated all of that, what I don't want to do is skew that data by you saying that the coffee machine is rubbish in the kitchen, and then I say, well, that's all we could afford at the time, and we're looking at, and then it's just, you start skewing that data. I'd much rather you tell me that the coffee machine's rubbish, and then Jonathan also says that it's rubbish, but somebody else says, well, those are the sort of things. I'd like it to continue to be peer generated until the point where we close the survey. Then we can start doing that level of analysis, then going back to people.
Yeah, no, that I suppose when you think about it like that does make sense. Otherwise, you don't want to start, skewing your actual answers that you're getting, but also starting a discussion about it. But that's just someone's opinion. If they think the coffee machine's rubbish, they're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
So you can't then come back and say, no, it isn't. Actually, let everybody have all their answers. That can all be collated in the management report, sent on to the client, and then they can look at it and think, oh, maybe we should change the coffee machine, and that's completely up to them, rather than it being like tit for tat, really. I understand that.
The whole peer validation process is absolutely critical. I want that group of people to either challenge or validate those statements that are important to the business, important to themselves. And then it's me as a top manager of that 4% to go, actually, there's some insights here that I really need to respond to.
Well, thank you, Gary. That's been really interesting. Like, it's been fascinating to hear all about your baby. It's your concept, and
it is my baby.
Is it? But genuinely, like, from the minute I kind of knew about you and knew about your product, I think it's brilliant for the event industry. I mean, anybody that's an event professional, all they want to know is the truth about the event. They want to know good, bad, and most importantly, they want that constructive comment and criticism. And you can only improve on your event or your product or your design if actually people take the time to tell you and say, that was good, but actually try this, or I didn't enjoy that part of it. So if the tools that you've built can deliver that, I think it's only of benefit to the event industry kind of moving forward, and for clients that are not event based. So really appreciate all your time today.
Not at all. I mean,
at the bottom of the slide.
I was going to say, I just think that the events industry, you can't get much more people orientated than that, can you? I mean, and it's not just about you as an event organizer and the person that's paying your wage and giving you a set of requirements. There are so many different stakeholders that are attached to it, with the supply chain and those people that are attending the events and those people that are part of making it happen on the day and all that sort of thing. So as soon as you start breaking anything down, there's more people involved in it, and all of those people have got their own set of requirements. It's just, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. But at the end of the slide, there's ways to contact us and there's ways to contact Gary. So if you've got any further questions, please get in touch with us and we'll make sure Gary gets comments and questions as soon as we can. So thank you so much for your time today, Gary. We really appreciate you talking.
Not at all. Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.